Kylian Mbappé left PSG, and after leaving them, they look better than ever, and in fact are one of the favorite teams to win the UCL, which was not the case when Mbappé was there. Meanwhile, the team that he joined won the UCL last year, and now with him are now currently facing elimination. It begs the question, is Mbappé making teams worse? My answer is yes and no. Let me explain. Mbappé left PSG last year. This year, PSG's been doing a lot better. Let me go over some stats here. Their goals per 90 minutes went from 2.29 to 2.75, and their assists per 90 minutes went from 1.78 to 2.07. And why is that the case? Why did they get better after homeboy left? Well, let me break it down for you.
Mordecai.
This goes back all the way to the Messi, Neymar, Mbappe team up that occurred a while back. When Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, all three of them teamed up in 2021, their coach was Mauricio Pochettino, who ran a 4-3-3 lineup, right? The top three people in that lineup, Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, were essentially just given free access to roam around and kind of have them figure it out, which might sound a little familiar. That tactic was just simply not sustainable. When you let your players kind of go off freely and kind of do what they want and essentially play isolation ball almost, what ends up happening is you rely too much on your stars, where when you run a legitimate system, you make it easier for them. So whenever the system isn't working, hey, come through and save us. But your team shouldn't be the damsel in distress as a superstar has to save every single game. We're gonna see that a little bit more later. But then after 1 year, that lineup did not work. They were not able to win the UCL. Pochettino was set for Gautier, and his tactics were a little bit better. He was running a 3-4-2-1, which was indeed better than what Pochettino was running. They essentially had the two was Neymar and Messi, and the one was Mbappe. And Mbappe wasn't playing like a real striker. He was more like another forward. And this was more kind of marrying the idea of having them kind of do whatever they want, but still adding a light system underneath them, which again, I believe made them better. Under Gautier, they were the best iteration of that team. Again, they were only together for 2 years. Messi and Neymar ended up leaving. Why? Well, because they're probably, didn't like being in a country that was just filled to the brim with French people. Bro. And then Kylian Mbappé, well, let's pronounce it right. Kylian Mbappé. Right? That's how you pronounce things in French, right? If you ever wanna sound like you're French, right? Here's a key to doing it. So when you're talking, imagine per every word somebody just comes in and starts choking you mid-word. That's literally how French people sound. Kylian Mbappé.
Ask the child if he or she is choking. Are you
French? Then PSG went on to hire Luis Enrique. Now, Luis Enrique, he had a very infamous speech with Mbappe.
Yo te he leído que te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de los huevos a todos sus compañeros.
So I watched a lot of 90s ball. I didn't grow up in the 90s, but I watched it on YouTube. I remember Jordan doing that. I love that speech though. It makes me run through a wall. And Luis Enrique was amazing because he was able to put in an actual system, a system where a lot of the players were attacking in open spaces, not just letting the players play whatever they want. He implemented a system, a strategy to supplement Mbappe's strengths, which is what the coaches before should have been doing. So what ended up happening? Mbappe had one of his best years of all time, where he ended up scoring 45 goals under Luis Enrique, and they looked to be a well-oiled machine. They even looked better than when you had Messi and Neymar there. So you have this coach who seems to know what they're doing. You have Dembele, who was kind of coming off of the whole stint in Barca where he was mostly injured. He's looking better and better. You think he's going to take a step up next year. You have all these pieces around you, right, that are looking good, and it's like, whoa, if we run it back with Luis Enrique, to me, there's no shadow of a doubt. If Mbappe decided to run him back with Luis Enrique this season, in my personal beliefs, PSG are the favorites by a decent amount if they have Mbappe. I think Mbappe has probably his best year ever. With Dembele coming through and Barcola, Kylian would have had an amazing season. But that's not what ended up happening. He went to pursue his childhood dreams and play for Real Madrid. And I have to preface this because this is the portion of the video where I have to assign blame to Kylian Mbappe. You went from a system and a team that was heavily reliant on its stars, and then a system that just let those stars do. And those systems that were heavily reliant on just having the stars do whatever they wanted, right? Having a coach being like, well, I don't want to be too on top of them, too strict on them. I'm going to give them the freedom to do what they think is best. And it wasn't working. Finally, PSG puts the right coach around you, puts the right players around you, and is building a great team. And what do you decide to do? You go to another team in Real Madrid that is superstar reliant and has a coach that kind of lets his players do whatever they want. You see what I'm saying? And then guess what? They were able to win the UCL last year. But what ends up happening? They lose Toni Kroos. They get Kylian Mbappé. Now, I get it. It's Kylian Mbappé. But if you strip the names out from all the players and just logically look at what they did, a player who essentially does what Vinny does for them already, it doesn't make sense from an X's and O's standpoint. When you draw it up tactically, it does not make sense. But hey, he's a big star. We will make it work. And that system that Ancelotti have of letting the players figure it out themselves works well when the system, when the engine, with all the parts, when all the players know their role and are able to play their role effectively. And that was the case last year. But this year, it's complicated because what do you do with Vinny? What do you do with Kylian? Ancelotti doesn't know what to do with them. So he's like, well, let the players do what they want. The players don't know what to do with that as well.
What the fuck is this? I don't know.
Right? They each want the time to shine. So what ends up happening is one game, Vinny, isolation, give the ball to Vinny, have him figure it out. Isolation, give the ball to Mbappe, have him figure it out. It's not structured play. They don't have a system. If you watch a Real Madrid game, a lot of times they're just sitting around.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
They're just standing around kind of giving the ball to somebody. Let's see what they do with it. From time to time, if they want to do that, they can. They have the talent to do that. But it's a seasoning. It's a slight seasoning. It ain't the whole food, dog. You could put salt on food. You're not going to get a spoon of salt and eat that directly. That's disgusting.
Disgusting!
So that is what they're essentially doing. They are doing hero ball, ISO play. It'll get you through the season because those players, the reason why they're stars, they're going to be good more often than they're not going to be good. But then you run into the issues when you go into the round of 16 in Champions League. When in your own league, the games are finishing up and you're like second or third place and you need to get a win streak going for any hope of actually winning your league, for you to win the Champions League, for you to win any sort of cup or championship or whatever that's going on. You need to be consistent. And guess what? Superstars, no matter how good you are, no matter if you're Messi, no matter if you're Neymar, no matter if you're Pele, no matter, you're going to have your off days. When you get towards the ends of the season, you need to be firing on all cylinders and you can't miss. If you miss, you don't win a Champions League. If you miss, you don't win La Liga. If you miss, you don't win Copa del Rey. You do not win anything. Barcelona has a system. Lamine Yamal plays a good, efficient cog in that system. Sometimes that system doesn't work because no system is perfect. Guess what? Hansi Flick will look at Lamine and be like, yo, brother, pull us out of this situation. And that's what ends up happening. But it's a seasoning. It's used occasionally. Break in case of emergency. That is Real Madrid's game plan. Go into it essentially being like, hey, yo, guys, can you help me out? And Mbappe, when he was at PSG, the coaching wasn't right. I think his last year, Luis Enrique, the coach was right, but Mbappe didn't stay long enough to see the fruits of his coaching. And then he goes over to Real Madrid, where I think Ancelotti is a big problem there. I think coaching has been the reason why PSG wasn't that good when Mbappe was there. And then when he goes to Real Madrid isn't as good. I think it's been simply coaching. But, and this is why I say yes and no, it's his fault. Kylian Mbappe was there during PSG and when they had Neymar and Messi as well. He saw it play out, and then they hire a good coach that has a good system. They get rid of Neymar and Messi. You're gonna have a system backing you up that's gonna make you produce goals, and then hey, occasionally we might ask for you to pull us out of a tough situation. We're in there, and then you decided, I'm going to go to a situation where there's a coach that lets a team do whatever they want and they're filled to the brim with stars. At the end of the day, it is Ancelotti's fault and it's Pochettino and Gautier slightly. It is their faults that the teams were not as good. But it's Kylian's fault for making the decision to join Madrid. And yes, following your heart is important. But following your heart, there's a caveat when it comes to that. The timing has to be right as well. Hope you enjoyed this. If you do, leave a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Appreciate you. Have a good one.